Hey everybody, this is TJR. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. If not, welcome back. And you know, the movie Elvis, directed by Baz Luhrmann, features a portrayal of friendship between blues legend BB King and Elvis Presley during the early years of their careers. And as I watched this film, I began to wonder, did these two men have a friendship in real life? After all, this is a biopic, and a lot of times these biopics take liberties with certain facts, and I don't claim to know everything about these two music legends, although I do admire their musical work quite a bit. So after I got home, I did a little bit of internet research, and lo and behold, yes, in fact, they had a friendship in real life. In interviews, BB King has discussed knowing and becoming friends with Elvis before and after his success. He has talked about how Elvis, after becoming successful, helped him land bookings, and BB King has gone on record defending him against charges of cultural appropriation. In his autobiography, in fact, he stated, Elvis didn't steal any music from anyone. He just had his own interpretation of the music he'd grown up on. Same is true for everyone. And this got me thinking about cultural appropriation, not just in regards to Elvis, but popular music in general. However, in this video, I will be using Elvis as kind of a yardstick. So first of all, what is cultural appropriation? Well, if you go online, you'll find the following definition. Cultural appropriation is the inappropriate or unacknowledged adoption of an element or elements of one culture or identity by members of another culture or identity. Now, this can be controversial when members of a dominant culture appropriate from a minority culture. Now, within popular music, I see cultural appropriation practiced in two ways. One, cultural appropriation as an individual music artist or band who adopts an ethnic or cultural group's music that they are an outsider to. Now, they might do this because they love the music, or they might do it for personal gain because they feel that this is where the money is, or this is who the cool kids are, versus any real desire to emulate the music that they actually love. Now, over the decades, I have seen musicians adopt a musical style for exactly this reason. They don't believe in the musical genre they perform in so much as they believe in the popularity of the music genre to bring them financial success. And sometimes this choice does involve cultural appropriation. So does this apply to Elvis? Honestly, I don't think so. When we are young, we have a tendency to veer toward whatever music our peers around us are listening to. From what I have read, Elvis grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood, so how could he not be influenced by black music as much as white music? He was in fact influenced by both, and he played his own part in bringing these two musical styles together. He wasn't the only one to do this, of course. I get the feeling that kids back in the 50s, both black and white, liked Chuck Berry as much as they liked Elvis Presley. Now, within the context of popular music, from the middle of the 20th century to today, most popular music artists started out as fans. Allowing the music that they love influence the music that they create is not appropriation. It's just the way that popular music works. Most of us start by imitating our heroes to one degree or another. But the ones who stand above the crowd are the ones who move past sounding just like their influences and who figure out their own personal spin on the music they love. In this respect, I don't think Elvis is guilty of cultural appropriation, and I agree with BB King. Now, there is another practice of cultural appropriation that was quite common during Elvis's time. The practice of white artists covering the music of black artists and not giving any credit to the originators. A band that you could say that was sometimes guilty of this was Led Zeppelin, and more specifically Jimmy Page, who sometimes covered black artists but failed to properly credit or acknowledge them. Sometimes he did this by lifting the lyrics, like he did with You Need Love by Muddy Waters for Whole Lotta Love. Other times by listing the songwriting on a track as traditional, meaning public domain, or crediting himself or the band for the songwriting like he did with It's Nobody's Fault But Mine by Blind Willie Johnson for Nobody's Fault But Mine. But there are also non-black artists whom Jimmy Page appropriated from as well, too. So I'm not really sure at times if Jimmy Page was guilty of cultural appropriation as much as he was just simply guilty of appropriation in general. Now, was Elvis guilty of this? I have read a lot of claims in print and on other YouTube channels, including ones that I really like, that Elvis's cover of Hound Dog was cultural appropriation, that he stole the song from its originator, Big Mama Thornton, and never credited her. Hound Dog was written by Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, two white Jewish guys who wrote the song specifically for Big Mama Thornton. They were both credited as writers on Elvis's cover of the song, and they both earned royalties from Elvis's cover as well. And that's all that Elvis, his management, and his label are really obligated to do. In addition, co-writer Mike Stoller has stated in an interview with Rolling Stone that Presley was well aware of Thornton's version of the song, but that his rendition was directly inspired by a different version of Hound Dog that was recorded by the group Freddie Bell and the Bellboys. Mike Stoller also acknowledged that neither he, Jerry Lieber, or Big Mama Thornton ever got paid much for her recorded version of the song, and Stoller acknowledges that as a tragedy, along with the general lack of cultural recognition that Big Mama Thornton received, adding that's true not only of Big Mama, but of many black performers and songwriters. Side note, for decades there has been a hidden history of black musicians who helped shape both rock and roll and country music during its formative years, and the internet has thankfully played a hand in helping to bring that history to light. And I was glad to see some of that history showcased in Baz Luhrmann's new movie. Now, was it unfair that because of his skin color, Elvis could have a much bigger hit with Hound Dog than Big Mama Thornton could ever hope to? Yes, absolutely. It was terribly unfair and terribly wrong. But the blame goes to the conditions of the society at the time and not to Elvis or any kind of cultural appropriation. And we have to always remember what the world was like then in order to always strive forward to a world where we see individuals and not color. This is an issue separate from cultural appropriation. With that said, I do have to add that it would have gone a long way for someone like Big Mama Thornton if Elvis had mentioned to the press that she was the one who originally recorded the song back when his cover was charting. I want to stress that Elvis was not required to do this, but in my research, I have not been able to find any indication that he had. But it would have gone a long way in helping her if he had verbally acknowledged her. If I'm wrong about this, please correct me. Then again, given how culturally segregated the times were, he may have been advised to never mention that to the press, since exposing that fact to a wider audience could have affected record sales in certain parts of the country back then. But no, I don't think Elvis was guilty of cultural appropriation on that front either. But outside of Elvis Presley, has cultural appropriation happened in popular music? Chances are it probably has. But I always say, good luck proving it. Because you see, nothing is created in a vacuum. We all get influenced by what has come before, and this is true of all art. The Last Airbender is an American cartoon series, but so influenced is it by Japanese anime that if you didn't know better, you would swear it was produced in Japan by Japanese animators and then dubbed into English. The creators of Last Airbender are not guilty of cultural appropriation. They are guilty of cultural appreciation for the animation of Japan, so much so that it shows up in their work. Just because someone is one color of race doesn't mean they don't get influenced by genres or art that are typically associated with a different color of race. And I feel that a lot of times cultural appreciation gets wrongly called out as cultural appropriation. I am Hispanic, and when I worked professionally as a musician, say 4 or 5 nights a week, I would sometimes get asked why I wasn't playing Latin music. The answer is I'm just not that interested in Latin music, and I don't think I should ever be obligated or feel obligated to work in a genre of music just because of my cultural heritage. And by that token, and no pun intended, I grew up in a world where everything in movies and television, or 95% of everything in movies and television, was tokenism, but that's a topic for another day. But again, if someone not Hispanic loves Latin music and wants to create and perform their own spin on the genre, they shouldn't be denied that just because they're not Hispanic. Because to tell them that is also a form of racism. And for those musicians who might truly be guilty of cultural appropriation and jump on a cultural bandwagon for personal gain, rather than because they truly feel that music in their heart and soul, well, that's just being phony. And honestly, being phony in music catches up to you eventually. Audiences eventually see through it. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know what yours are. Please leave a comment. As always, if you like what I do here, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. I want to take a moment now to thank my patron supporters who are helping me make more videos. Patron supporters receive exclusive weekly videos not available here on the channel. And if you'd like to be a patron supporter, please go to patreon.com/TJR, the original. Now I just want to thank you very much for making it here to the end of the video. This helps the channel a great deal when you do. Everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I'm curious to know what you think. Take care. Bye-bye.